The Sahart Chronicles. Sahart, Violet Starfall, First Bridge, Black Nexus, Primordials. Available on Amazon.com. Prologue. The night the sky picked a fight. The first thing I learned about battles was that nobody important ever shouted useful instructions. They shouted things like, "Hold the line," which sounded noble until the line was a cracked alley wall. The people holding it were apprentices with borrowed helmets, and the enemy had arrived carrying hooks, siphon chains, and the kind of confidence usually reserved for tax collectors and idiots. Violet rain hammered the rooftops of the glass cities, turning the market lamps into smeared ghosts of gold, and somewhere above the crooked slate tiles, the storm kept growling like it had a legal grievance. I crouched behind an overturned cabbage cart with a wrench in one hand, a stolen academy token in the other, and a very clear sense that adulthood should have come with a refund policy. "For the record," Doreen said beside me, pressing her back against the cart as a stone dart screamed over our heads, "This is your fault." I looked at the smoking crater in the alley, the half-buried violet shard pulsing like a heart that had never been taught manners, then looked at the black-cloaked raiders climbing over the broken archway. "That feels unfair," I said. "I only poked the glowing skyrock once." "Once was apparently enough," Doreen said, and she grabbed my sleeve as another blast struck the cart hard enough to spray cabbage leaves across my face. "Also, stop calling it a skyrock. It makes this sound less terrifying than it is." I spat cabbage out of my mouth and squinted through the rain. 3 vault-keeper clerks in polished gray were trying to form a measured defensive circle around the crater, each moving with the stiff panic of people trained more for ceremonies than murder. Across from them, 6 black harvesters advanced through the steam, their siphon hooks dragging sparks from the cobbles. The shard hummed again, and I felt the sound inside my teeth. My forearm burned where the crystalline scar had bloomed moments earlier, a thin violet line under my skin, pretty, in the same way lightning was pretty if it was coming directly for your face. "Fine," I said, glowing civic disaster. "Better?" Doreen gave me a look sharp enough to carve slate, and said, "I am going to push you into the next crater." A harvester in a crow mask snapped his hook forward, and the iron tip bit into the cart inches from my knee. "Step away from the fall site," the harvester called, his voice muffled behind black lacquer. "The first breath belongs to those brave enough to take it." One of the vault-keeper clerks raised both hands, palms glowing with a slow lithic pull as loose cobbles lifted around him. "By authority of the keepers of measured power, this area is sealed," the clerk shouted. "All unauthorized extraction is punishable by seizure, classification, or corrective labor." I blinked rain from my lashes and leaned toward Doreen. "Did he just threaten them with paperwork during an ambush?" I asked. Doreen shoved my shoulder down as the harvester yanked the hook sideways and ripped the cart apart. "Doreen," she said, "when I said talk less, I meant before the murder hooks." The cart exploded into splinters. I hit the cobbles shoulder first, pain bursting through my ribs as Doreen rolled beside me, and the shard pulsed again. The world became vectors. Iron filings in the gutter, rainwater laced with forged soot, basalt under the street, heat trapped in a fallen lamp. I did not understand how I sensed it, only that every piece of matter around me suddenly felt like a hand waiting to be grabbed. That cannot be normal, I thought, which was unfortunate because normal had already fled the alley wearing sensible shoes. The harvester lunged for Doreen, hook low and chain singing, and I threw my wrench because it was the only heroic option available to a person with no sword and poor planning. The wrench bounced off the harvester's mask with a flat, insulting clang. The man stopped. I stopped. Even Doreen stopped. "I expected more from that," I said. "You threw a wrench at a raider," Doreen said, hauling me up by the collar as the harvester raised his hook again. "What exactly was your strategy?" My palm brushed the cobbles, and the shard's hum snapped through my bones. "Improvisational disappointment," I said, and then the street answered me. Basalt surged up in a jagged lip between us and the hook. Not a wall exactly, more like a living mosaic of enchanted stones yearning for adventure. The harvester's chain struck it and ricocheted into a fruit stall, detonating pears into the rain. A vault-keeper clerk turned, eyes wide. "Who authorized that lithic displacement?" he yelled. I stared at the raised stones, then at my soot-streaked hand. "I would like to file as surprised," I said. Doreen looked at me with the expression she used whenever I lied badly, broke something expensive, or did both before breakfast. "Dorian," she said, low and dangerous, "what did you do?" "I may have borrowed the street," I said, and the words tasted ridiculous even before the alley tried to kill me again. The crow-masked harvester ripped his hook free and barked. He touched the Starfall. "Take the boy alive." That single sentence changed the battle. The other harvesters turned toward me with the sudden unity of street beggars spotting a dropped coin purse, while the vault keepers also turned toward me with the much colder interest of people who preferred property to remain quiet. "Alive?" I said, backing away as my heels slipped in rainwater. "That is usually reassuring. Why is it not reassuring?" Doreen shoved a broken crate into the path of a charging harvester and shouted, "Because everyone who says it looks disappointed by the condition." A Pyrrhic bolt burst against the wall above us, showering sparks and plaster, and my lungs seized as heat washed over my face. The shard pulsed harder, dragging light through the puddles. I felt heat from the shattered lamp, stone from the street, metal from the hook chains, and something worse beneath the harvester's gloves, living warmth, pulsing and forbidden. My stomach lurched at the touch of it. "No," I whispered, and I clenched my fist before that pull could deepen. The crow-masked man laughed. "Afraid of Vitae, little ward?" he asked as he advanced. "Good. Fear means someone taught you manners." I backed into Doreen and forced my voice steady. "My manners are excellent," I said. "I only steal from streets, lamps, and occasionally public institutions with unreasonable entry policies." Doreen elbowed me. "Not the time," she said. "It is exactly the time," I said, because if I stopped talking, my hands would shake badly enough for everyone to see. A vault-keeper clerk hurled a disciplined ring of lifted cobbles toward the harvesters, but the crow-masked man snapped 2 fingers, and another raider opened a Vitae siphon from the moss choking the alley drain. Green-black light flared, the moss withered to ash, and the cobble ring cracked mid-air. "Unsanctioned living draw," the clerk shouted, horrified. "That is a Class 7 violation." I ducked as half a cobble spun past my ear. "Wonderful," I said. "We are saved. He has identified the violation." Doreen grabbed my wrist, fingers tightening over the glowing scar, and her anger faltered into fear. "Your arm," she said. "Dorian, your arm is lighting up." I looked down as violet lines crawled beneath my skin, branching toward my elbow. The shard's hum became a command without words. "Take, shape, release." My mouth went dry. "I noticed," I said. I was trying not to be dramatic about it. The crow-masked harvester sprang, hook sweeping for my legs. I shoved Doreen behind me and reached, without knowing where my reach ended. Iron leapt from the gutter in a glittering smear. Soot tore from the rainwater. Heat snapped from the lamp flame so fast the wick died with a hiss. The 3 affinities collided in my chest like badly introduced guests, and pain punched through my ribs, but I pushed anyway. A black-edged sheet of hot grit burst outward and struck the harvester's mask. The man cursed, stumbled, and fell backward over the raised basalt lip. His dignity landed first. Doreen stared. The nearest vault-keeper stared. One harvester actually lowered his hook. I swayed, tasted copper, and managed. "Good news. I have upgraded from wrench." "Bad news," Doreen said, dragging me away as 2 more harvesters recovered and charged. "You look like you are about to die from your own cleverness." My knees buckled. Overdraw whispered at the edge of my skull, cold and oily, promising collapse if I pulled again. The world blurred, but the shard remained sharp, burning in the crater behind the fighters. A vault-keeper with captain's bands shoved through the rain, face pale under his polished helm. "Secure the anomaly," the captain ordered. "The boy is now evidence." I blinked at him. "I object to being evidence," I said. "At most, I am a witness with bruising." The captain pointed a measuring rod at me, and pale ether light crawled along its tip. "On your knees, ward," he said. "This is now a lawful containment." Doreen stepped in front of me with a broken cabbage board raised like a shield. "He is not yours," she said. Her voice shook, but she did not move. I felt something inside me go still, the last little cowardly corner that kept recommending surrender for health reasons. The crow-masked harvester rose behind the basalt lip. Mask cracked, blood dark at his chin. "No," the harvester said, laughing through his teeth. "He is not theirs. He is not yours either, girl. Things that fall from the sky belong to whoever survives the picking." The shard flared in answer, violet light washing over Vault-Keeper Gray, Harvester Black, and Doreen's rain-soaked face. I closed my fingers around the Academy token still trapped in my palm, the useless little brass circle stamped with the motto of the Glass Academy of First Measures, Order Makes Worth. I almost laughed. "Doreen," I said, my voice low as the alley tightened around us. "When this is over, remind me to return my student token." Doreen did not look back. "Why?" she asked. I raised my burning hand as both sides charged, "Because I think I just failed order." The shard screamed. The alley answered. Stone folded upward, iron snapped sideways, dead lamp heat burst into a violet-edged wave, and I felt every eye in the glass cities turn toward me before the blast swallowed the street. Here ends the prologue and story begins on Chapter 1. Storm and Seed.